Okay, hi everyone and welcome. So today I'm going to be talking to someone amazing. She's had 23 years of branding and marketing and she's built over 6 companies before she actually retired and started again. And she's also the author of the 7 Reasons Why Customers Don't Choose You. So who better to ask about branding but the wonderful Sammy Blindell. Hi Sammy, thank you for being here and welcome.
Hello, hello. Thank you.
So I just wanted to find, can you tell us a little bit more about your background briefly about branding? I know I covered it a little bit, but it's nice to hear from you with regards to branding. You know, what have you been doing and what made you take this journey?
Yeah, gosh, and what a journey it's been. It really has been an incredible journey. I did start off in branding and, you know, and just to get the differentiation complete, your brand is trust. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not there. Your brand is emotional. It's not necessarily something you can see, but your brand is something that everybody knows is there. It's your reputation. Your branding is your trust mark. It's the visible identity that you see. So I started my life in branding and creating the visual identities for thousands of clients all around the world and really helping them to brand build and grow their business. And I learned a lot of things along the way whilst branding those companies, and obviously branding 6 of my own companies before I created this business. And really what I learned was that the cosmetic side of things is great, and yes, you need to have that trust mark. You need to have a really professional identity that people can associate to. But over the 23 years before I launched How to Build a Brand, I did a lot of research. I went to networking events. I just stood at the back of the room. I watched people engaging. I watched people interacting with their physical marketing materials, with their branding. And I just literally stood back, didn't say anything, and then went and approached these people once they were having the conversation. And I got to understand a huge amount about the psychology behind the branding, and that really triggered me. That I was so interested and fascinated, and still am. So I then embarked on a journey understanding psychology, compelling language, color psychology, went into a massive amount of that, and then dedicated the next 11 years of my life to really focusing on that. So for me, the brand is so much more fundamental. There's no point in branding a company until you know what brand you're building. It taught me a hell of a lot about business models. The 6 companies I built before this one, I learned what to do, what not to do. And ultimately, that really led me down a path to really focusing on the brand before you create the branding. And so many people are creating the wrong branding identity for the business because they're not necessarily sure what business it is that they're building. And, you know, when you start asking questions, they're really certain this is what I'm doing, and then drill down a few layers. It's like, oh, actually, yeah, ooh, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, crikey. Oh, well, yeah, if I built it like that, then actually it's going to cause me problems later on. Yes. But the problem with that is you've then branded yourself, which is suffocating the business, because now you want to grow and you're stretching over here and the branding is going, this is what you said you do, you're staying right here. So really that's the world that I'm playing in now, is away from the cosmetic side of creating the identity and the visual trust mark. Yes, we do that, but it's the last thing we do. Now we really focus on what brand are you building, who are you building it for, what business are you building to give you the life that you want, and how are you going to grow that so it's profitable and you can extract yourself from the business and not be 100% responsible for delivering all the time. And it is just game changing. It's changing the lives of a lot of people, and it still fascinates me. I think being a naturally nosy person makes this a really good job for me, because I get to really dig deep into what people are doing.
Oh, well, being nosy is what we do best. I mean, I've got a background in science, as you know, so I like being nosy. I like digging into stuff. So, so I totally agree.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. A lot of people go into business, and so would you say, I mean, branding would be the first thing that they need to look at, looking at the brand so they can build trust? And because I remember when I started business, I thought branding is like the last thing you think about. It's just like, okay, you build the stuff, and I see a lot of people doing that. And to hear you say that, you know, and I've been watching what you're doing and hearing what you're saying and really realizing how important branding is, would you say that's the first thing that we should do when you're starting a business?
The branding is the last thing you do. The brand is the first thing you do. So think of, you know, if you think brand is a 5-letter word, so is trust. Yeah. And in the word brand, if you were to flip the word brand and start backwards, you would find that the first 3 letters are DNA. And that's because the DNA of your business is your brand, not the branding. The branding is responsible for only 15. The branding, the logo, the website, how all of that looks is only responsible for 15% of why someone buys from you. 85% of the reason why someone buys from you is your brand. It's your trust, it's your reputation, it's how you deliver on your promises. And if you take that word brand and put it backwards and you start with that DNA, the D is how you deliver. How are you going to deliver on the promises that you have made about what your brand stands for and what you're going to deliver to your customers? N, how are you going to nurture people so that you can convert a stranger into a friend? Because most people think that the conversion happens when you make a sale, but it doesn't. The conversion really happens when you convert them from a stranger into a friend, someone that's never heard of you before, but now trusts you enough to have a conversation. That's where the real conversion happens. So you've got that D, how are you going to deliver, how are you going to nurture, how are you going to associate with your customer? I think too often, you know, our ideal clients in most cases is us 3 years or 5 years ago, you know, but it's very easy to be where you are now and forget what it feels like to be in those shoes, what it feels like to be going through that experience. So you come at it with what I call expert syndrome, and which means the language isn't matching. The love language that you use with your clients is now not associating with that person in the way that it could. And this happens also when you've got that client and you've provided that service. Well, what is the next thing? What is the next thing? Because once you've delivered what you do, that's going to create another problem. So what problem is it that they've now got? You know, for my clients, they're going from invisible to highly visible. So I'm curing invisibility, making sure that you're showing up in the right places to the right people in the right way at the right time. So everything I do is about visibility strategy. It's getting that brand seen, heard, and felt and experienced. When that happens, it creates another problem, because now they've got to serve those customers. They've got to make sure that the customer experience and the customer journey is in place. So you will have a clear problem to solve, and once you've solved that problem, it's going to create another problem. Once you've solved that problem, there's going to be another problem. And there might not even be problems that only you can solve. It might be you get to the end of the journey and then you have other people around you that can now step in to deliver, and you can build partnerships with those people and still serve that customer. So you still, it's your brand that they're still connected to. But I really would say, you know, how are you associating with the people that need you? And that's a huge thing, because if you don't associate in the right way, your love language is going to be completely off, and you'll be having tons of conversations with people, but your conversions will be low. So you've really got to think about how you're going to associate with them. Then you get to the R and the B. Now the R, most people think is reputation, but reputation comes from how you relate. So how you're relating to people, again, it's around that association. Now you've associated with me, now I can really it's like, wow, you really get me. Now you need to relate. Now I need to know you've been through it, what you did. I need to understand that you really know my problem and that you know the answer in a better way than anyone else in the world. And the B is the badge. That's your branding. So how you badge yourself, you know, it's almost like how you would badge a vehicle. Ferrari didn't set out and say, right, we've created the badge, now let's build the car around it. you know, like they built the vehicle first and then said, right, we're going to badge that. And what I'm finding is that most business owners that are coming to me saying, I haven't got enough customers, or I haven't got enough of the right customers paying me what I'm worth. I haven't got people that actually value me. I've got people that are trying to do deals. They're cutting me down on price all the time. They don't value what we do. Got nightmare customers. You know, if you ever had a customer you didn't want.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are all the problems really that we're solving, is curing that invisibility to the right people at the right time. And what we find is that so many people have created a Ferrari badge, but their business is a Skoda, or they've created a Skoda badge, but their business is a Ferrari, because you've badged your vehicle too early. So you know, and what happens then is, you know, like Skoda or Lada, for example, you know, Skoda in many people's minds that are coming into the market now, they're thinking Skoda, great vehicle made by a brilliant company. I think Audi make Skoda, or some big, you know, really reputable company now makes Skoda. But way back then, Skoda was a cheap vehicle. So in my mind now, you would never get me in a Skoda. Because the brand has been damaged. The brand started off in one way, then it evolved, then it changed. Now it's something else. But the badge, in my mind, has kept it exactly where it started off. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you understand where your brand is going to land. Be very clear about that as early on as you can be. I mean, the best time for me to work with a company is blank canvas. That is the absolute best time. People think they've got to have the branding. They've got to have this thing ready before they can work with me. Actually, it's the other way around. I want to get to people before they've started creating all of this, so they're not then having to unpick everything to then start again. And, you know, and yes, I work with a lot of people that have been through it the hard way, and now they're saying, oh, I know that I need to unpick stuff. And it can be done, of course it can. But now you're then in a position where rebranding is having to happen, which means you've already then got this audience of people that trust who you are, and you don't want to offend those people. You don't want to put them off. You don't want to push them away, because now you're saying, actually, this is who I am and this is who I want to target. So there's ways of doing it. There's ways of really moving and taking the customers that you already have on that journey with you, and without offending them or pushing them away or losing the business that you already have. So yeah, there's a real way of doing it, but the earlier on that you can really get to grips with what you're building, who you're building it for, and really creating that strong vision and mission. I mean, we spend 5 days on my Master Your Message Mastermind, really going into the vision and mission, because the vision and mission is the business model. It's not just some fancy wording that you put on your website. You build your entire business around this vision. The mission is how you're going to achieve it. And not enough people really pay attention to that little 10-second phrase, you know, but in doing so, that 10-second phrase can get you all over the world. And in fact, that was one of the things that I learned from my previous 6 companies. When I built this one, it was built on a really strong vision. It couldn't have been clearer. I made all my mistakes in the other companies. Like, this one was right. I am building this. This is who I'm building it for. And I built the entire business based on that vision. And it grew within 2 years. We were in 24 countries. Wow. We just really nailed it. Within 12 weeks, we went from 0 list in a brand new part of the world. We didn't have any people that we knew in this part of the world. We started the company on day 1. All we did was buy the domain name. We didn't have a logo. We didn't have any of these cosmetic things, which is hugely, I learned a huge amount from this, because usually I thought everything had to be perfect. I had to have everything set up. But with this business, no, we really learned on the job. It was like, right, we know enough. We can now get out there. And on day 1, we just started that blog. WordPress is free. So all we did was buy the domain name. And on that day 1, we were 473 million in the Google rankings.
Oh,
Most people
wow.
don't go past page 1. We were 473 million. And that was from buying that domain name. And then by week 12, we were number 3 on the first page of Google, above
Amazing.
Branson. We had £18,000 of retainer monthly income coming in by the end of that 12 weeks, because we just implemented a really simple content-based strategy. And that is something that I now train in my one-day events. And so that for me is really important, that people really get that perfection is poverty. Don't wait until it's perfect to get it out there, because as you're learning, you're growing. And the second thing is, you don't have to have everything perfect. You don't need the branding. You don't need a website. You don't need all these things in place. Again, you can create them. But just even having a blog, which is free, and all you need to do is buy the domain name, like I said, and just have some way of hosting it. So for about £20, you're set up. Just go, start communicating. You know, yes, there's a way to do it. There is a strategy for doing it. But, you know, if you start communicating with people and you do it in the right way, and you're doing it to the right people at the right times, you can't really go wrong, because they're going to tell you what they want. Then you can create a solution for what they're telling you they want, and then you start selling that solution. And it's really as simple as that. We've never ever created something that someone didn't want, yet practically every person that comes to us, they've spent all these years creating stuff and it's not selling, because the association part wasn't there. The how to relate it in your marketing isn't there. So all of these things, it is, I suppose it's like, I'm not a baker. I'm just going to put that out there. I do not ask you to cook anything for you, because I will probably poison you. But I do know that if you put the right ingredients into a loaf of bread the wrong way, it ain't going to rise. So, you know, doing everything all at once and trying to do all this stuff, because you already know what to do. It's just knowing what order to do it in. Yeah. And I think that's the real key of doing it. And the business will naturally rise, and you ain't going to be able to stop it. Like, the train has left the station, this business is rising, and now you're on a real mission and achieving that mission. Yeah. And that's what's really important, I think.
And that, I think, you know, you're so right, because I think a lot of people, you know, probably don't understand what their mission is, you know, and I've seen a lot of people, I've had people come to me talking about, you know, starting their business. They're trying to give people what they think they need instead of what people want, and people rarely buy what they, you know, what they need. They buy what they want. So it's understanding that and giving what they need in the back end. But in terms of branding, I mean, I was just thinking when you were speaking that you built the businesses. Now, did you build the businesses around you? Because there's this whole social media phenomena where everyone's like, oh, you got to brand yourself, you've got to be you, and you've got to be the face. And I've seen people be the face of a business, but then that becomes hard to sell on. That becomes hard for you to, you know, to do other things. What would your advice be?
I would advise you to understand what business you're building very early on. I think regardless of whatever business you're building, you still need your personal identity. You still need to build your personal brand, because when you're building something, especially at first, people don't know the company. They don't know what it is you're doing. So they're buying into you at first. But what you must be clear about, and this is where the vision really supports you, is the vision is the business model you're building. You just need to decide what's your role within this. See, with the companies I built before, the businesses were built around us. They were a purely exchange of time for money models. And that's why this business model, I set out very clearly to build the world's largest and most valuable brand building resource for purpose-driven entrepreneurs. So for me, it was, I'm building this as a resource. I put it out there very early on. This is a team. You know, I've got a brand building clinic where people can come, and I've got my own experts that I personally spend my own money with, that I've trusted, that I've tried, I've tested out. They do a great job for me. So I've got a panel of people that I put, and I don't take referral fees. You know, it's like, no, I just want to make sure that you're put in touch with the right people that can help you to this next step of your journey. So my business model was built around other people. The great thing behind that, and I think what really helped with that also, was that I created 100-year vision for this business. I knew that I was building something bigger than me. I knew what I was building was going to need to involve people very early on. And I knew that I didn't have the money or the resources or the time to train other people to come in and do that. But I knew that that was the business model eventually. So I set out from day one as if it already did exist in that way. And that's how it built so fast, because every time I created something within the business, there was a system behind that, knowing that someone else was going to take control of that when I'm not here. So I built myself out of this business very quickly. In fact, I had a business partner when I first launched this company. And because I built the business in the way that I did, and I built us out of it very fast, when he left the business, it made no impact on the company whatsoever. It didn't affect us one bit, because it was already built around a whole team. It was already built around it being a resource, a community. So, you know, so do think about your role very early on. I personally built myself out of this business as the brand ambassador for the company. So I go out, I talk about how to build a brand. I live, breathe, eat, sleep, walk and talk how to build a brand, but it doesn't define me. I am just a spokesperson for this business. I am just a catalyst for the company. I am the creator. I am the engine behind what happens, you know. But ultimately, the rest of the business works without me. I have around 23 people now. I think I'm just about to take on the 24th person. I have people that work all around the world, and they do their individual parts. I don't have an in-house team that focus on everything. I have a very specific content writer for a specific type of content. I have very specific technical team to work on their specific parts. You know, if you think of a band, you know, you're not going to create a harmonious piece of music if you've got one or two people that are okay at playing that instrument, but it's not really creating the right sound. So I learned very early on. I remember a very painful experience that I had in the last business that I sold. And I brought in and employed an accountant, thinking that that person would be exactly what I needed to manage the finances of the company. No, I needed a CFO, somebody that was looking constantly at the financial strategic direction of the company. I needed somebody in payroll. I needed somebody who was a specialist in tax. I needed somebody who could just manage the cash flow, the daily cash flow of the business. You know, that's 4 people. Yeah. That's 4 people, not one person. So I learned very early on from the mistakes of that, because having that one person stretching that person who said they could do it, but that wasn't their skill. And so it stretched their ability. They were slower at their job, which meant that things got done at a much slower pace. And when it came to paying tax, I paid a hell of a lot more than I needed to, because they didn't understand the ins and outs of that. So I would just say, you know, for any business, no matter how small you are, even if you're just one person right now, I had a great piece of advice actually that I'll share now that really helped me. I paid $25,000 for this piece of advice. So I was supposed to get 6 coaching sessions for this $25,000. And after 2, I realized I was outgrown of that person that was giving me the advice. But this one piece of advice that I got in the 2nd coaching session was worth everything that I paid. And what she said was, get an A4 sheet of paper and put your name in the top left corner of that sheet of paper. And then all of the roles that you physically play in the business to make the business run in the way that you want it to. So again, thinking of your vision, right? Don't think about who you are now. Think in 5 years, in 10 years from now, for you to have satisfied that vision, for you to be serving the hundreds, thousands or millions of people whose life you want to impact on, the ripple effect that you can create. What business is that then? And what people would you need in your business to make that run? So you leave yourself in the top left corner, and you start building out, who is it that I need? How do I need this to work? You know, so you're going to need admin. You might need 2 admin people. You're going to need marketing. You're going to need accounts. You're going to need customer service. You're going to need sales. You know, so think of all the different areas that you're going to need to work really smoothly. You're going to need the technical side of things in place too. Aftercare, customer service. These are all big roles. And once you've mapped them out, you've got your bird's eye view. You can look at that. Well, that's what I did. And I mapped out all these different roles that I would need within the business. It worked out to about 24, funnily enough. And I needed 5 internal, because to be able to grow a company of that size, I was going to need 5 people internally. And then all these other people that would just play in their tiny little role. Someone for Infusionsoft, someone to specialize in the tax accounting, someone to focus on the technical side of things, someone to focus on video editing, someone to focus on email marketing. So, you know, break it all down. And what I did was, as I started to grow the business, a name just went over the top of that job role. And that's all it was. You know, at first it's going to be you doing all this stuff. But as you start to get one by one, you start writing their name in. And one by one, you start to see that the company is actually growing in the direction that it needs to for you to have everything that you need. And within 2 years, I had most of those people in place. The company is just about to turn 4 years old. And I've only just in the last 4 weeks employed my first full-time person. So I've grown a global business purely through outsourcing and having different people play to their strengths. But now I'm at a stage where I need that physical in-house team. So I'm starting to put names on the in-house team now. And so I think that was a really good piece of advice that she gave me. And by doing that, it built me out of the business very quickly. It means that I've got all the systems in place for my business that I need. And yes, you can always improve it. Yes, you can always be looking at different systems, but just focus on what you need right now with the intention that this is what it's going to be. And you just go one step at a time. Don't try and create this massive system that costs you hundreds of thousands to put in place before you start serving people. Just start serving people, because you'll find out very quickly what they actually need, so you can provide a service to fulfill that. Don't assume.
That is fantastic advice. I love that. And, you know, I think I would suggest, actually, for everyone listening, do what Sammy just said. Literally get an A4 piece of paper, just something simple like this, and just get on with it. I'm going to do it, and I'm actually going to post it in the group to see, and literally accountability. And for yourselves, just start doing it. Just plot it out and have the vision. And I think Sammy just hit the nail on the head with the vision and actually having, so you can see yourself grow. Because sometimes it's a journey. Like for all of us, we're growing, we're building. And outsourcing, when people are starting out, I know you're scared and I know you're worried, but don't be scared and worried. You need to outsource it. You can't do it alone. You have to,
It's no fun when you're when you've got someone to bounce those things off, that really helps. What I would say is, when you first start outsourcing, it's going to feel great, because you're going to feel like you've offloaded all that. You're going to go, wow, I just offloaded that. Yes, someone else is doing it. And then they're going to come back and ask you 50 questions, and you're going to think, shit, I just bottlenecked myself big time. So, what I would also say around that is, as you are starting to outsource, template what you are giving them. If you're starting to get somebody to edit your videos, for example, they're going to ask for a certain thing each time. So, instead of you trying to come up with all this stuff, ask them, can you give me a template for exactly what you need, so I can provide what you need in the right way first time? And that way you're not making any assumptions. They're giving you a really clear guide of what you need, and that then becomes part of your templated system. That becomes, whenever we give a video to such and such, these are the things they need, tick, 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 done. And that way you ain't going to become a bottleneck. You're not going to become that person that's then having to ask another 50 questions, and it becomes really painful. So I learned a lot the hard way. You don't need to learn those things.
Yes, listen to Sammy. Sammy knows best.
I have another tip around outsourcing, actually. I have another tip, another thing that I learned. is that if you are going to use any kind of outsourcing resource like Fiverr or 5 Squid, or those ones are more specific because you can go in and pick what you need. But if you're using something like I used to use Odesk, which became something
Freelancer?
Else. There was Elance, which they all grouped together and became something else. You can tell I don't outsource using those methods anymore, but at the beginning I did. And I'm just trying to think of the name of this thing anyway. So what I found out
there was Freelancer, Elancer, Odesk, and I think Freelancer and Odesk have merged.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of the business that they became, but anyway, that can be put into the group afterwards. But what I really realised was that I was putting a brief out, and I was getting 30 odd different responses to this brief, and it was really painful because I then had people that were. It was obvious after a time, it was obvious that people weren't reading the brief, they were just responding to it and saying they could do it. So I started to, in the very bottom line of the brief, I started putting, please respond with the title Pink Elephant in capital letters when you respond to this post, because they would have had to have read right to the very bottom. And then when I was getting the responses, if they didn't have Pink Elephant in capital letters, I just deleted them. So it left me with 3 to 5 people that had actually read it. And the other thing was, if they then hadn't put it in capital letters, I thought they ain't going to follow the brief. So again, that eliminates people. So then you're down to 2 to 3 people. And now you know that you're actually looking and having a conversation with somebody who's serious about it. But the next level to that is then they might have said yes to 10 jobs all at the same time. Or what if a lot of them come off at the same time? You've gone from being highest priority to back of the queue now. So I've also found that letting them know that I'm going to give them a bonus for completing the project on time. It doesn't need to be a massive bonus, but letting them know that you'll give them a bonus at the end for them completing it on time, that also makes you a priority. So these are just a couple of things that I really learned with outsourcing the hard way, and you can go in and start straight away from the right place.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. That's a great tip. The pink elephant thing, I used to do something else, but it's great because you get to see what people don't read. I mean, it's amazing, but people just skim through, and when you're looking for someone specifically, it's important to have the right person to do it. So that's important. I love the tips that you gave. So we have, because I've been writing these things down, and I hope you all have too, because it's really, you've got the brand. So we have to understand what the brand is, a brand first, and in the last. So we've got that clear. Would you say, what would you say we can, when people are just starting off right now, what is the very first thing that they can just go off right now? We can just start doing when we're looking into our business. Would you say we just use the brand, the 5 of the brand, the 5 steps that you gave?
Well, there's a step before that. I mean, there are 3 V's that I talk about. One of them that I've already covered. So the 3 V's, the first one is your vision. So we've already talked about the vision. If you do nothing else, please just get your vision right. Understand what business you're building and who you're building it for. So base it on my model. I am building the world's largest and most valuable brand building resource for entrepreneurs of purpose-driven businesses. That's what am I building and who am I building it for? Are you building an academy, a community, a service-based business? Are you, what is it you're actually building? And really stick to that and get that vision really strong. The next thing is your values. Make sure that you are underpinning your entire business on the top 3 values that really support what you're building. And this is non-negotiable. So, there's 2 reasons why the values are really important. The first is when you don't build your business on the right values, you attract the wrong people. So, it's all very well you saying you're a relationship driven company verbally, but if the colors you use for your business, because each value has a color attached to it, and each personality of your customer has a different color attached to it, each business model has a different color attached to it. So I'm always taking these things into consideration when I'm doing the color psychology piece behind what colors you should be using. What 2 colors should you be using to really directly reach out and pull those ideal customers in using non-verbal communication without you having to say anything. And so the values are super important, because that's a great place to start. So for example, as I just said, if you care about relationships, but the color you use is suggesting is putting out there a financial vibe, you are, no matter what you do, no matter how beautiful your logo is, no matter how great the verbal communication is, you are always going to attract customers that want to do a deal with you, that want to cut you down on price, because that's their thing. That's their values, right? So your values are super important, because it determines who you're attracting and the colors that you use for your business. And finally, the value. So you've got visions, values, and value. You know, how you value yourself is pretty much based on those 2 things. When you've got those 2 things nailed, when you know exactly what business you're building and who you're building it for, what values are non-negotiable, that when you attract people, they have to have these values, your value will automatically be perfect. What you're charging, how you communicate yourself, how you feel about yourself, about what you're building, is very strong. It's certain, and you have a resilience around everything that you're building. So you ain't going to attract people that knock you down on price or that want to negotiate a deal. This is what it is. So those 3 things really, that is like the one. It creates the one thing. Those 3 things create the one brand that you're building, that you want to see in the world, the brand that's missing, the brand that people are waiting for. And if you don't go out leading in that way, you're not the only one that's going to lose, because your ideal customers are currently being served and serviced by people that you know you can deliver in a much better way than they can. You know, and for every moment that you're not out there with the right vision, the right values, and the right value, somebody else is ripping off your clients. They're being left broken. They're being abused. They're not getting the service that you know that they deserve. And then they're coming back to you after. I mean, how many times do you have someone say to you, oh, I wish I'd have known about you a year ago. Oh, I wish I'd have met you 5 years ago. I wish I'd have met you before, because I've now spent all of my money with this person. I've been ripped off, and now I need your help, and I can't afford to pay you for it. So it's not just your right to go out there and claim this leadership. It's your duty to do so. It's not about you anymore. And that's the real difference I found between being a business owner and an entrepreneur. The business owner is focused on the business. It's making sure it's profitable. It's making sure that it's running, that it has the right systems in place. An entrepreneur, it's not about you anymore, and it's not about your business. It's all about them. It's all about, how do you serve that customer? How do you change their life? How do you transform where they are to where they want to be? And when you first, as an entrepreneur, when you first start your business, you're going to be acting like a business owner a lot of the time. But if you've got an entrepreneurial mindset, you're going to be doing all the things that I've shared in this interview, building yourself out of that business, making sure you've got a really, really strong vision, values, and value proposition, and you'll be building yourself out of that company so you can be the brand ambassador of it, the person that lights up the sky and shares with the world everything that you're doing. And you know that while you're doing that, the business is still running behind you.
You have just described yourself as a T. You're amazing, Sammy. Thank you so much. You know, it's been amazing talking to you, because you've given so much with your heart. You've shared so much knowledge. If you're watching this, rewind, replay, take more notes. And I'm deadly serious, because, you know, and if you want to work with Sammy, because Sammy does a lot of things and she's all over the world, like she said, you know, if you want to learn more, she's given us a fantastic gift below. So just click that and just opt in and, you know, get your gift and get moving, because if you're just starting a business, or even if you've already started your business, this is ideal for you, because you can just literally, you know, next year, taking the steps forward this year can be phenomenal for you because you've taken the right steps. You know, just start with your vision, your values, your value, and, you know, proposition, and just do that. So I would like to say thank you so much to Sammy. It's been such a wonderful, you know, time speaking to you.
It's my pleasure. It's always my pleasure to serve, Kimberley. So yeah, I think that the most critical thing really is that vision. And when you close your eyes, if you imagine, I mean, I don't know where we go. I believe we go to heaven. Everybody has a different belief about where we go. But I want you to imagine for a second that you're sitting on your cloud, wherever it is that we go, you're sitting on your cloud and you're looking down and you're going, wow, look what I did. I did that. I created that. I started that. Look what I did as a result. My time here was worth it. My earth suit enabled me to go and do all of this. What is that? What is it? What did you create? What did you see? What did you do? Who did you help? How did you help them? A brilliant place to start. That's really important, you know, in your story, where you've come from. Create that vision. Just start there. And even if you've got an established business, reevaluate that vision. Are you on track? Is that vision serving you? Has your life changed? Has it evolved? Did you actually create a business that needs to evolve with you? I think it's good to reevaluate that too.
And I have nothing more to, I'm going to leave you right there. It was just perfect, because you know what? Sammy's just nailed it, and I can't say anything more. Do what she says, go forth, and I want to see all the results, you know, because it's not just about listening, it's about implementing, and that's what this is all about. It's about you implementing, taking steps to build a business, because that's what Sammy and I are here to do, to change lives. We want to change lives. We want to make it awesome for you, and the only way that we can do is deliver the information, and it's up to you to take it and make use of it. So I implore you, take the steps and go and be awesome. So take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.